Welcome to the Optimal Protein Podcast. I'm Vanessa Spina. Did you know that it's possible to become effortlessly lean through the power of an optimal protein intake? On this podcast, we talk all about protein and how research has shown that an optimal protein intake can help improve body composition, metabolic health, and even correct appetite so that we can become effortlessly lean. I am Vanessa Spina. I am a sport nutrition specialist, a biochemistry and biomedical science student and scientist. I am the creator of the Tone device, the author of the best-selling book Keto Essentials, available on Amazon, the creator of the Ketogenic Girl brand, the 28-day Ketogenic Girl challenge, including the higher protein meal plans, which can help improve metabolic health. I am truly obsessed with optimizing our metabolic health and wellness through all of these different tools that are available to us. From protein-sparing modified fasts to ketogenesis to intermittent fasting and exercise, all of these amazing tools that center around improving body composition, metabolic health, and making the body a fat-adapted, fat-fueled machine. With this in mind, I present to you interviews with scientists, experts, physicians, and people from all around the world. I truly love this community, and I feel so honored to be a part of your journeys. I have seen the power of an optimal protein intake to improve body composition, correct appetite, improve metabolic health and wellness, regardless of lifestyle, whether you are keto, paleo, vegetarian, carnivore, high carb, low carb. The center of it all comes down to protein, and that's why I am so excited to continue to spread the message about the science and power of optimal protein. So let's keep growing as a community and positively change the metabolic health of the world together. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Optimal Protein Podcast. Today is the first day that we are debuting the new name for the podcast. I am so excited to talk about it. We will also get into some interesting protein content as well, but let's kick off 2022 with the Optimal Protein Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens, the health and wellness company that makes comprehensive daily nutrition really simple. There's a lot of stressors in life, and it makes it challenging to maintain effective nutritional habits and give our bodies the nutrients that they need to thrive. Between busy schedules, poor sleep, our environments, work stress, or just not eating enough of the right food, all of this can lead us to be nutrient deficient. AG1 by Athletic Greens is the leading superfood product, and it brings comprehensive and very convenient daily nutrition. These days, if you are trying to keep up with the research, listen to the latest expert, between that and remembering to take a bunch of pills or capsules every day, it's hard to keep up with it all. That's why I love Athletic Greens and why I recommend it to all my friends and family, is because it's just one thing that has all the best things. Now, this has really been a game changer for me personally. I don't like taking a bunch of pills, a bunch of multivitamins, plus all these other supplements. Now with AG1, I can just take everything, one delicious drink every morning, and instead of it being this task that I have to remember to swallow a bunch of pills every day, I can just have this delicious drink in the morning, and it tastes absolutely delicious. The flavor is not too overpowering. It's kind of just mildly sweet. In addition to that, I truly feel like it helps my overall energy, my digestion, and it just simplifies things because it replaces all of these multivitamins and other things that I would need to take. One tasty scoop of AG1 contains 75 vitamins, mineral, and whole food source ingredients, including a multivitamin, multimineral, probiotic, greens, superfood blend, and more in just one super convenient daily serving. They have this amazing blend of high quality bioavailable ingredients in a scoop of AG1, and it all works together to fill any nutritional gaps that you might have in your diet. It supports energy and focus, and it can help with gut health and digestion while supporting a healthy immune system as well. And like I said, replacing multiple products or pills meals with one healthy, delicious drink. Another thing I love about AG1 is they really keep up with the research. They have produced 53 versions over the past decade of this formula, and they invest in high quality sourcing for all their ingredients, and they go above and beyond in third-party testing, which you guys know is super important to me as well, to make sure that their customers receive the highest quality and form the best nutritional habits. It's lifestyle friendly for keto, paleo, carnivore, dairy-free, or gluten-free, and it has less than 1 gram of added sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial ingredients, while keeping it tasting delicious. You can join their movement. It's called Essentialist Nutrition, and to make it easy, Athletic Greens is also going to give you an immune-supporting free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase if you visit athleticgreens.com/ketogenicgirl today. Again, simply visit athleticgreens.com/ketogenicgirl to take control of your health and give AG1 a try. All right, my friends, it is Thursday, January 6th, 2022. Oh my goodness, it's a new year, and I just love an opportunity to have a fresh start, to start a blank slate, and I love this renewal of the new year that provides us with this amazing opportunity to set new goals for ourselves in 2022, to grow in new ways. And one of the ways that I am growing, if you haven't noticed, I've been a little busy growing lots of different things lately, from a baby to the Tone device, and relaunching this new rebrand, which is the Optimal Protein Podcast, and also my brand, which is shifting over to the Optimal Protein Girl. If you follow me on Instagram, I am now Optimal Protein Girl. And I want to talk a little bit about why this change is happening and what the whole idea behind it is. And then we will talk a little bit about some protein content in the second half of the episode. But I think it's really important to talk about how this change came about, why it came about. It's been in the works for a long time. I have been considering it for a very long time. And truly the reason why I wanted to rebrand myself, this community, the podcast, is because I feel that the Optimal Protein podcast better represents this community that I feel so passionately about. And this community and this podcast, it's all about all of you. I am part of that group with all of you, but it's all about us, really. Let's make it all about us. It really is about being more inclusive. And I've been thinking a lot about my ultimate vision, which really is to have a positive impact on the world in terms of improving people's metabolic health, because it leads to improvements in overall wellness, quality of life, and just getting the most out of life. You know, I'm an optimizer and a maximizer, and I want to get the most out of life, live my best life, and I want to help others do that as well. And I found that although I've been successful so far in spreading a message in terms of lowering our intake of sugar, of processed carbohydrates, and processed refined foods through the Ketogenic Girl brand. That was really my goal, is to help people to get on a more nutrient dense, approach, and to become fat adapted, to learn about ketogenesis, this amazing ability that our bodies have to burn our stored body fat, which is a massive problem that, we as a global community have been dealing with in terms of obesity skyrocketing and people struggling. And having dealt with that struggle myself, I relate to it more than anyone. And the fact that I have been able to alleviate that for myself, to improve that situation for myself, to get effortlessly lean through the power of optimal protein, keto really brought me here. And I love the Ketogenic Girl brand. It's not something that's going away, but I think it's time to grow and evolve. And I think it's important for us as a community. And that's really what Ketogenic Girl has always been about, is a community of all of us together, learning and growing together. And so I think this was the right step. It's something, as I said, I've been considering for a very long time, and, wondering if it's the right thing, debating it, and it really feels right. I think that this is the right step. And from your feedback in our Facebook group for the podcast, I can tell that you feel it too and you align with it as well. And I think that it's about being more inclusive ultimately and representing this community better. And I think that based on your feedback, that's really what we are all about, is optimizing our bodies, recomposing our bodies, improving our metabolic health, correcting appetite, all of this with the power of optimal protein. And it has been absolutely game-changing, life-changing, everything for me. And keto did a lot of wonderful things for me. It's not that I am changing my diet personally. I'm actually continuing to do mostly keto, carnivore even, and I am doing optimal protein in that context. And I think that what I've been realizing just through following the science is there are more ways than just one, more routes than just one to get to really strong optimal health and wellness. And I think it really just comes down to protein. A lot of the cases, I also think it comes down to low carb. So I'm still an advocate of low carb and keto. I'm not changing that. I'm just becoming more so an advocate of optimal protein and making that message stronger, because I think it ultimately is a more positive focus. When people think of keto, a lot of times they don't think what I think or what maybe we think about it. People don't think keto is synonymous with nutrient density. They don't necessarily think it's synonymous with health, but optimal protein, it can be that. And it can also be inclusive of different lifestyles. So, whether someone is keto or paleo or vegetarian or carnivore or high carb or low carb, perhaps you're an athlete who's doing high carb, low fat, you can still be healthy depending on how much you earn your carbs. And so I'm still an advocate for low carb, but I do think that as long as optimal protein is the base, I think that makes a more positive impact and a bigger impact ultimately for people. And I also think that it can help people make the transition if they are wanting to lower their carb intake more easily, because by gradually bumping up the protein, including more protein in the diet, it is going to be easier to make the transition off of sugar. And for a long time, I believe that the transition is made easier through fat, through eating more dietary fats. And I do still believe that, but I wouldn't just go ahead and replace all the carbs just for fat. I think it's more important to focus on optimal protein, getting 30 grams of protein 3 times a day at least, really focusing on that ideal protein amount. And for women, getting around 100 grams of protein per day at least, depending on age. It's less important if you're younger. It becomes more important as you get older, and especially as we age and grow in life. So I think that it's just a more positive, more inclusive, more evolved brand and approach. And I am not going to be getting rid of ketogenicgirl.com. It is staying, but I am adding optimal protein and a new website as well that I want to build. And I enjoy creating so much. I truly feel my happiest. You can probably hear it in my voice when I am creating things. I've always been a creator since I was a little girl, and I just love creating products, tools, things, content, videos, podcasts. Makes me happy to create content and education and information that is helpful and research and evidence-based so that other people can experience improvements in their lives. And I feel so passionately about this community that we've built and that we are continuing to build. And I just think that this message could be helpful for so many people in the world. And I don't want anyone to reject this message of optimal protein because they think they have to do keto. And I think that it's possible for anyone, even someone who's vegetarian. It actually is so much more important if someone makes a lifestyle decision to be vegetarian, to have the right information about protein. And I wish I had had it when I was vegetarian for 17 years, because I would not have wrecked my health as much as I did, which I've now been restoring and repairing. But I would have been much better off as a vegetarian if I understood optimal protein better. And although I will always believe that the quality of protein will be better from animal sources, especially eggs, than plant sources because of the amino acid content, I think it's important to represent, as many people as possible, regardless of dietary choices, lifestyle choices. And I don't think that, people should identify either with their diet. I think that that's something that we can easily fall into is, I follow a keto diet, or I follow a carnivore diet, or I follow vegan diet, and therefore I am keto/carnivore/vegan, whatever it is. It's not who we are. We are so much more than just what we consume and what we eat. We truly are whole beings with so many dimensions. And that's been something that I've, experienced personally through learning to just eat to live instead of living to eat, that it has freed up so much energy, so much passion, so much time in my life to be able to create more, and realizing that I'm so much more than just what I eat. And that's been part of my personal journey in growing and evolving. This episode is brought to you by ButcherBox. They make it easy to get high-quality, humanely raised meat that you can trust. They deliver 100% grass-fed, grass-finished beef, free-range organic chicken, heritage breed pork, and wild-caught seafood directly to your door. When you become a member, you're joining a community focused on doing what's better for all. That means caring about the lives of animals and the livelihoods of farmers, treating our planet with respect, and enjoying better meals together. One of the things I love about ButcherBox is they source their meat from partners with the highest standards for quality. No more wasting time searching the grocery store for 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more. The process of becoming a member is super simple. Once you sign up, you choose your box and delivery frequency. They offer 5 boxes, 4 curated box options, as well as their popular custom boxes, so you can get exactly what you and your family love. ButcherBox ships your order frozen at the peak freshness and packed in a 100% recyclable box, and shipping is always free. You get to enjoy great tasting, high quality meat delivered right to your door. ButcherBox makes it easy so I can focus my time on cooking amazing meals for my family, not searching for meat at the grocery store. Right now we have the New Year's bundle. New members receive 2 pounds of ground beef, 3 pounds of chicken thighs, and a 3-pound pork shoulder for free in your first box. Just go to butcherbox.com/fastketo to sign up. That's butcherbox.com/fastketo to receive the New Year's bundle in your first box. I think that this is going to be beneficial for more people, especially if there's people in your life that you would like to share the message of optimal protein intake with, and they don't have to be turned off by sort of the keto message, because unfortunately there is a lot of bad information, bad facts out there about keto. And that's not something that any of us can help. Keto from the beginning had a negative connotation to it, that it was very restrictive, that, it could lead to ketoacidosis, which is not the case, because ketosis sounds like ketoacidosis. It's not the same thing at all. But when I think of keto, I think of a nutrient-dense approach, and I think of burning fat, being fat adapted, being fat fueled. And that is whether it's, your goal is doing a therapeutic version of keto and you're eating a lot of dietary fat to be in ketosis, or your goal is more so getting lean, and so you are being fueled from your own body fat. Either way, you're going to be achieving ketogenesis if you are low carb or keto. And I think that that's just a place that can generate so much wellness and metabolic fitness. And that's something that I just want to spread to more people in the world. And so I think that you've obviously, those of you who provided feedback to me, letting me know that you felt that this was a great move, that this was a great decision. I really appreciate so many of your comments in our Facebook group for the podcast. The name of the podcast has changed to Optimal Protein Podcast. And so if you'd like to join the Facebook group, it's now called the Optimal Protein Podcast, but it says Fast Keto in brackets. So I'll keep that up for a while just for people to find it. And just as I'm going through sort of the renaming, the rebranding, for some of you, this is probably a surprise, and that wasn't my intention. I want to keep a lot of the format of this show the same. I know that that's something you're probably wondering about, but the protein series that I've been doing on Thursdays as a part of Fast Keto basically is just sort of taking over more of the podcast. So, we will continue to talk about a lot of different topics that revolve around wellness, but there's going to be more of an emphasis on protein, understanding protein, its role, and the science and research. And it's just the protein series is basically the podcast now. So Thursdays will no longer be necessarily the protein series. It's just part of the Optimal Protein podcast. So I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, let's talk about it in the Facebook group. But I love knowing your feedback, and I really appreciate all of you that, reached out and sent me a message if you found out about the news. And like I said, I didn't want to spring it on you, but this is sort of the transition that we're making, and don't worry about the format changing too much. You're going to be hearing from a lot of the same experts, a lot of the same people, but we're also going to be bringing on some new guests with different ideas. And I think that that's really important, to not be just like in a silo, to continue to expand and grow from other voices, other experts, other people who may have interesting things to share. And I think that we can grow more if we challenge ourselves more in those ways. I also want to do a lot of content on fitness and exercise. I am a sport nutrition specialist, so, I do have a lot of knowledge around sport nutrition and continue to grow that knowledge. I'm currently doing a couple of courses now on my continuing education credits on amino acids, on supplementation, on protein for special diets, whether it's pregnancy or eating disorders. I'm studying some new things, and I'm excited to bring more of that content to you on the podcast and continue to share that. And like I said, the format is not really going to be changing. It's just that Thursdays are no longer going to be dedicated to the protein series. I could talk about a lot of different things on those episodes, whether it's new research on the gut microbiome or new research or new studies on different aspects of health and wellness. We will do that. And I hope that all of this makes sense. But I'm so excited. I think it's just, like I said, it's a great time to change things up, set new goals for ourselves, to grow, to evolve. It's the beginning of a brand new year. And I think that really big things are in the cards for all of you in 2022. I have a feeling it's just going to be an amazing year and full of growth, full of insight, full of epiphanies and things. And I am just really, really excited to be sharing all of this with you. So I want to talk a little bit about Monday's episode and some of the content that's coming. So I have the wonderful Dr. Angela Stanton joining us again on the podcast, but this time we're just talking about protein, and she is an incredible researcher and writer, and she really, really prepared for the podcast. So we talked about some really important themes and topics. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into one of them specifically that I've kind of mentioned on the podcast before, but I wanted to go into it a little bit more on today's episode. And that is the role of protein and how much it does for us in the body, in addition to muscle protein synthesis. So on the podcast on Monday, we talk about this. We talk about the differences between animal proteins and plant proteins. We talk about why the recommended protein intake is what it is, why it was set that way. We talk about, different amino acids and anti-nutrients in plants, which can block absorption from protein, which is really, really important to know about, because at the end of the day, we want to be absorbing, utilizing as much of the protein that we eat as possible. And we talk about collagen and BCAAs and how they differ in terms of, taking actual protein as, like a protein supplement. And I think that these are some really important topics. But one of the topics in particular that we talk about is how in our research, biochemistry, and so much more, we both came to the same conclusion that protein is actually needed for so much that occurs in our bodies. And when you study biochemistry, you learn protein, it doesn't just make up most of our body, which it does. About 16% of our body is protein, but that's basically everything excluding water and fat. Our bodies, when it comes to not just our skin, our nails, our organs, our tissues, our hair, our skeletal muscle, it's not just the physical stuff. It's also neurotransmitters. It's also hormones. If you think about the hormone insulin, it's a peptide or protein-based hormone. Even the sodium channels that our cells use to exchange sodium ions and potassium are made of protein. Literally everything in our bodies is made of protein. And that's why protein is the building blocks of our bodies. And our cells have these little 3D printers in them, basically, that are printing new proteins constantly based on our DNA code. And so they're taking amino acids and arranging them in a certain sequence in order to make new proteins. And that is part of protein turnover that's occurring every day. And every day we have this sort of balance between muscle protein synthesis, which we talk about so much on this podcast, and muscle protein breakdown. And that's why it's so critical to make sure that you get enough protein at every meal in order to trigger muscle protein synthesis, because if you don't, then you won't have a positive balance between muscle protein synthesis or muscle building and muscle protein breakdown. And that means that you'll be in a catabolic or a breakdown state. We want to be in an anabolic state, which is a positive sort of surplus of muscle protein synthesis. And that means that if we get enough protein at every meal to trigger muscle protein synthesis by having enough of the amino acid leucine increase in our bloodstream, we are going to be triggering muscle protein synthesis, and that is going to enable us to prevent muscle protein breakdown. And the rates of muscle protein breakdown are lower the younger we are, and they get higher the older we are. And that's why we see a lot of issues with sarcopenia in the elderly and frailty. And our bones are mineralized protein. And we always think of our bones as being made of calcium, but our bones are really mineralized protein, and we store calcium in our bones. And it's only when we don't get enough calcium in our diet on a regular basis that we leach some of that calcium from the bones to use it, because we need calcium for so many things. Every time you fire a muscle, your muscles use calcium channels in order to exchange different chemicals that basically help the muscles to fire and release acetylcholine on the muscles so that they can move. And so we need, we have these calcium channels. We need calcium for a lot of different functions in the body. It's a very important mineral. It's one of the 5 drives that we have. So Doctors Robbenheimer and Simpson, who wrote the protein leverage hypothesis in their book, a fantastic book, Eat Like the Animals. They talk about how we have these drives, about 5 of them, and they are drives for protein, carbohydrates, fat, sodium, and calcium. And in nature, animals will migrate in order to meet these drives. And it sort of goes hand in hand with protein leverage hypothesis, which is we will overeat in order to get our amino acid needs met. And so, we have these 9 essential amino acids that we have to get from outside sources every day. And that enables us to initiate this muscle protein synthesis and maintain our muscle, but it also helps us maintain our bones. It helps us maintain our neurotransmitters, which when you think about our mood, how much of our mood is affected by our neurotransmitters, dopamine, et cetera, made from protein. They're made from amino acids. And, we talk about, the importance of hormones. A lot of our hormones are protein or peptide based. A lot of them are steroid or fat based, but a lot of them are also protein based. And so it's important to have enough protein to be able to synthesize or make these hormones. It's important to have enough protein to make all of our organ tissues, to make all of our skin, nails, and hair. So we need protein and amino acids for so many things. And our body will prioritize using those amino acids that we receive from our diet to make our tissues and our vital organs and all of these physical things that we see and feel in the body before getting to skeletal muscle. It's a luxury. It's something that comes in addition to getting all of the those essential needs met first. And that's why it is so critical to get enough protein when it comes to overall wellness, because it's not just about getting lean, it's about being well, feeling good in your body, feeling fit, having energy, and having your body not deteriorate, but continue to ameliorate. And that really comes through the intake of proper amino acids, optimal protein, making sure to have protein at every single meal that you have in the day, eating at least minimum 2 meals a day, 3 or 4 optimally if your goal really is to optimize muscle protein synthesis, and making sure that you get high quality protein in. The proteins are ranked on a scoring system, and they're ranked in terms of biological value, but also scoring system called PDAS. And the animal proteins have the highest quality protein. Eggs have the highest biological value protein next to breast milk. So it's really, really important to make sure that you're getting quality protein. One of the proteins that I really love is egg protein. You can either have egg white protein or egg yolk protein or whole egg protein. And the egg whites also have a lot of nutrition in them. It's really important to get the yolks as well. But egg whites also have a lot of nutrients in them in addition to just protein. And, if we look at animal proteins as a whole, when you're talking about fish, you're talking about beef, poultry, chicken, turkey, duck, all of the different animal proteins that we consume, they provide the best forms of amino acids that are really made for us, as opposed to plant proteins, and making sure that we don't eat too many anti-nutrients from plants that can potentially block the absorption. That's something that I would like to do a future podcast on, just talking about the anti-nutrients in plants that when combined with protein could potentially block the absorption according to some studies. So I think it's a really important topic. I wanted to dive into it a little bit more today, but overall this podcast was really to announce the rebrand to the Optimal Protein Podcast, and I am so excited for what this year is going to bring. I really want to wish all of you Happy New Year. As I mentioned in the new intro to the podcast, I am absolutely honored to be a part of your journeys, to be a part of your lives, to help facilitate this information coming from experts to you so that you can implement this amazing information knowledge in your lives. And I truly am honored. And I feel so blessed by the community that we are building together. So if you'd like to join us on Facebook in the podcast group, it is called the Optimal Protein Podcast. We have lots of discussion there on protein sparing modified fasting, how to get enough protein in the day, just a lot of conversation surrounding the experts and guest information presented on this podcast. And I would love to see you in there. It's a lot of fun. It's really my favorite group on Facebook with the 20-day keto challenge. All of my challenge meal plans, everything are staying the same. So we still have ketogenicgirl.com. We still have the 20-day challenge coaching group. None of that is going away or changing, but we're just evolving, like I said, and adding on this optimal protein aspect. So if you know of anyone that you think would enjoy the Optimal Protein podcast, please do share it with them. And if you ever have a moment to leave me a rating or review, it means so much to me. It makes a huge difference. So I would really appreciate that. And I appreciate all of you who have taken the time to do that in the past. It really makes a huge difference. You have no idea. And if you'd like to try out higher protein with me, check out my higher protein plans at ketogenicgirl.com. They come with my support and coaching as well in our members group. Thank you all so much for listening today. I am sending you all lots of love and wishing you a fat-fueled rest of your day. Thanks for listening, and bye for now. A few disclaimers. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice, as I am not a qualified healthcare provider. The information presented on this podcast is for educational purposes only. Ketogenic Girl is not qualified to provide medical advice. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to this podcast. Prior to beginning a ketogenic diet, you should undergo a full health screening with your physician to confirm that a keto diet is suitable for you and to rule out any conditions or contraindications that may pose risks or that are incompatible with the ketogenic diet. A keto diet may or may not be appropriate for you if you have any kind of health condition, whether known to you or unknown, so you must consult your physician to find this out. Anyone under the age of 18 should consult with their physician and their parents or legal guardian.